when I'm not training or when I'm not getting down the weight, like I like donuts and crepes. And I'm a treats guy.
Welcome back, everybody, to another installment of the Fro Show. Today's episode is special, like every episode, but I'm incredibly excited because today we are hosting, arguably, not even arguably, he is the best American wrestler to ever live, but he is also arguably one of the most respected athletes I've ever been blessed to brush elbows with. I can't even name all of his accolades because we haven't allotted time, and this man would be showering us with all kinds of medals and rings and such. Today we welcome Jordan Burroughs. JB, thank you for joining me today, brother.
Absolutely, man. A pleasure to be here, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you up to today, man? I know you mentioned you're in North Carolina. Break it down for me.
Yeah, so we're here in Concord, North Carolina. We have a Team USA wrestling camp, which we've been in quarantine during the pandemic for so long that we really haven't been able to assemble. Most of Team USA is littered all over the entire country. So we got guys at NC State, Nebraska, Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa. And so this is one of the few times each year that we're able to get an opportunity to get together. But the Olympic Training Center has been shut down for a long time because they're really operating with extreme caution. So we had to find an alternative venue to host, 25 to 40 athletes, hotel space, a ballroom that can fit 8 wrestling mats. And so we finally were able to do it here in Concord, North Carolina. So a little different scenery, but it's pretty solid. The training's been good.
Gotcha. It's crazy to me, JB. You're a gold medalist. You're a 4-time world champion, right? I mean, you're a 6-time World Cup champion. You're a Pan American Games gold medalist 3 times, I believe. 4-time just dominating the Pan American Championships. So at some point, like, are you getting a little tired, or is that fire just burning?
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes, bro, you have to constantly remind yourself that this is something that you desire. Right. I think that there is a certain level of mental fatigue that everyone experiences just when you've been in a game for a long time. Things aren't as exciting as they once were. It's nice when you do something for the first time, that exhilaration, that, feeling that you get when you hop off the top of the podium. And then as you do it repeatedly, it's more satisfying, more gratifying, but it's less exciting. But it's still something that's ingrained within me. Like, I love the battle. I love the fight. I'm still capable. I'm still willing. And it's fun, bro. Like, I really like to be out there with my peers. And, there's a lot of guys now that I'm encountering, guys that were babies when I first began this journey. They're guys that I'm teammates with now that'll walk up to me like, hey, you remember when we took this picture when I was 10 years old, right? And now we're teammates and we're training together. And so I'm the old head on the squad, but it's been a lot of fun, man. And I'm going to do it as long as I can until I'm either mentally fatigued and I'm like, okay, I need to step away, or my body can't hold up. I'm going to stay within it. I love it.
I love that. And your body's definitely holding up, brother.
Yeah, I'm still rolling.
You're stacking those W's, brother. It's pretty impressive. Now, speaking of W's, man, I've played in some pretty cool settings, some pretty cool arenas, phenomenal stadiums. I watched you wrestle in the middle of Times Square. Yeah. Can you tell me about that? Is that one of the coolest experiences, or were you just locked in?
Unquestionably the coolest experience. So it's the Beat the Streets event that we do yearly, and it goes to different places. So we've been on top of a pier, we've been on a battleship, we've been in Grand Central Station, but Times Square is unquestionably the coolest because there's so many people, they don't even know what's going on. They just see something happening. They're like, wait, are they wrestling?
Yeah.
We always have a foreign opponent. So there's that kind of nationalist aspect where people are like, yo, America's wrestling Iran or, Japan or Russia. And so the people just swirling around the city get super excited about the experience. And so they literally just rope off an area and put a mat right in the middle of Times Square. So there's millions of people just circling around the city, and there's a buzz and electricity, and you're outside, which is, unique to wrestling as well. So it's pretty special, bro. It's always a fun event to compete in.
Yeah, I feel like as like a bystander, you're just like walking by, you might be out from South Korea. You know what I mean? And
you're like, what's going on in there?
Yeah, like, what's this
let me stop and watch this for a few minutes.
They just fight in the street like this.
Oh, it's wild, dude.
That's so cool. But how did, a guy like you come from New Jersey to Nebraska? I mean, that's
for sure. And stay there.
And
15 years.
You're there. You're still there. You're telling me.
I'm still here, bro. So I think I didn't even know much about Nebraska. I wasn't heavily recruited. I didn't have a lot of options. So this was one of the few schools that wanted me to be a part of their program. And I would have came to Nebraska sight unseen because I had heard about them. I knew they had a lot of tradition in their program. They had a great staff. And so it was a pretty easy decision for me to make. I was going where the money was. I'm like, you're offering me a scholarship, I'll be there. But I actually had my best friend in high school. We were next door neighbors, was a year older than me, Vince Jones. I don't know if that name's familiar with you, but he was an All-American at Nebraska in 2009.
Yep.
He went to Nebraska a year before me, basically put in a good word with the coaching staff. So like, hey, I got my best buddy a year younger than me back in Jersey. His name's Jordan. Like, and I took care of business. I finally became a state champ as a senior.
Right.
And those guys came out and recruited me, and we got the job done. So basically, I came to Nebraska because I wanted to wrestle again with my best friend.
Right.
But it's wild how things kind of transpired because he was always the better of the two of us when we were growing up, and I was his little brother. I followed him to tournaments all over South Jersey, and he would always look out for me and teach me moves, and we would train together. And when I got to Nebraska, that's when I really bloomed. I think I needed access to resources. I needed to develop as a man. I needed to gain confidence, and I needed an environment that was like conducive to champions. It was the structure. It was the training partners. It was the coaches. It was the training table.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like actually having nutrition, Husker power, being able to lift 3 times a week and actually see those developments and those gains. It was huge. But I imagine our careers reflect each other a lot because I was small growing up. I was always like the runt. But when you're small and you're not like, you're not a physical specimen, you can't just rely on physicality alone.
Right.
You got to develop all the intangibles. You got to be gritty. You got to be tough. You got to, use angles, like all these little things that big guys, they never have to think about.
Right.
You had to develop those. So then when you finally do develop, physically, then it's just like you're dangerous. You're dangerous.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, man, because you're absolutely right. I mean, to even playing in the league, I was never Nebraska. I was never the most talented, fastest dude on the team or anything like that. But like when you're not blessed with those things, where you got a little bit of talent, you work a little bit harder and you care a little bit more, So that's a really good point. I love that. I gotta reflecting on our time in Nebraska. Do you have a favorite match? I mean, you. A lot of people don't know that you put the hurt on Justin Gaethje, and that's one of the baddest dudes alive right now.
I did.
Yeah. So
what's wild is so there are a bunch of champions that I beat.
Yeah.
I beat Gaethje a couple of times. I beat Michael Chandler a bunch of times. I beat Lance Palmer when I was in college. And so it's wild to see these guys go out and win at the highest level, because there are a lot of guys that can beat in wrestling that I don't want to fight. Let's put it that way. Because these dudes they're tough, man. They're tough, and it's a very difficult game to pursue and be successful in. But I think my favorite match at Nebraska would probably be, the Big 12 championships my junior year were hosted at the Coliseum.
Yep.
And, this was before the big Devaney renovation. And, the Coliseum is where we had all of our college duels before they made the transition there. And so it was just a much more intimate space. It was a smaller crowd, so it was only 4,000 or 5,000, but just the way the venue housed people, like they were on top of the mat, and it was really loud and it was exciting. And so those were some of the coolest moments that I experienced. But that Big 12 championship where we were underdogs, we weren't supposed to win, and we ended up tying Iowa State for first place and coming home with a team trophy, first place trophy, and being co-champions in Lincoln. And we had a ton of upsets in the finals to like tie. It was insanity, bro. It was so loud, man. I miss it, bro. There's nothing like college. Like being Olympic champions, cool, world champions, cool, but there's nothing like college wrestling with your buddies right next to you, and you guys are hanging out after the dual meets and the games, and it's just, there's something about it. It's a real brotherhood, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. You said two things there that I'd like to touch on. One is the Coliseum, because I think Nebraskans, right, like that grew up in the area that went to games in the Coliseum versus the Devaney. Now, I think everyone loves the Devaney. The renovations are incredible, but there was something special about that Coliseum. Like they just cut off half the gym in the rec center, and it like they just
it's crazy, right? It was like grimy. Like if you really think about it, like what it was, like it was grimy, dog. Right. But it had an atmosphere, it's like the old Yankee Stadium before all these huge renovations, and it's, this elaborate luxury. It was just gritty.
Yeah, it was like you're coming into a basement for a dog fight.
That's it, bro.
Yeah, like
That's
it
it.
was sweet.
I miss the matches at the Coliseum. I think the Devaney has really provided a better experiences for the fans.
Yeah.
But I think from an athletic standpoint, it was pretty cool to be in the Coliseum. It was just a different setting, different vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. That passion, I mean, in that Coliseum, Nebraska culture and fandom in a small place like that, it's like the roof comes off. Now you mentioned you were in the Big 12 championships, right? You never wrestled in the Big 10. You still follow the Huskers wrestling, and what do you think of obviously Big 10 wrestling?
I do, man. I live in Lincoln, so I'm training at the room every day with the college guys. So I've never left. I'm the second longest tenured guy in that Husker wrestling room behind Mark Manning, the head coach, right? So he was there first, I was there second. I've seen an entire repositioning of the coaching staff. I've seen so many generations of wrestlers come and go. So it's special, man, what they've been able to build and create. And Manning's done a tremendous job. I believe he's in his 22nd season at Nebraska. I just saw the TPI, or Tournament Point Index, for the rankings for the NCAA and Division I wrestling, and we're ranked number 2 in the country, at this point. And so it's a good squad we have. A lot of hammers, a lot of really good guys. We're still waiting. I was the last national champion at Nebraska, though, and that was in 2011. So I'm always challenging these guys daily. Is like, who's next?
Yeah.
Who's next? Who's going to be the next guy to set the standard here for our university? And so it's been a decade this year, and hopefully, if we are able to have an NCAA championships next month, I think that we got some guys that are in position to do really well. We've got a guy ranked number 1 in the country, Eric Schultz, at 197 pounds.
Yeah, Schultz.
I believe we have 4 guys ranked in the top 8 right now. So we got a good squad. And the team's getting better. And it's kind of a testament to our staff, Mark Manning and also Brian Snyder, because it's easy to look at me like this guy's an anomaly, right? He came here, was lucky, and he got developed. And now all of a sudden he goes on to these great things. But we've had a really consistent program in terms of success at Nebraska. And so that's one thing that I can always hang my hat on. It's like, hey, listen, if you're going to come here to Nebraska, don't come here for me.
Right.
I'm here because of what they were able to help me do. This is common. A lot of guys have gone on to do great things at Nebraska. So it's a good place to be. Just
relaxing a little bit. I want to ask you something, because I've been a skinny little, like 185-pound dude pretty much my whole life. What's your diet like, JB? You're training for Tokyo, right?
I am.
Right. So what's your diet like? Are you strict with it? And after you're done, cutting or maintaining however you have to do, is there something that you can't wait to be done with wrestling so you can just eat and not have to worry about?
So I've become I've dabbled in numerous diets. I've done keto. I was a vegan for a period of time. Now, for the last year, I've been pescatarian. And I have committed to intermittent fasting. It's been really helpful for me. So a typical day for me looks like I wake up in the morning, 7:30, go to practice at 8:30, practice from 8:30 to, let's say, 10, come home, spend some time with my family. If the kids are at school, I'll have lunch with my wife around noon. Usually lunch for me is a smoothie. So do like a green smoothie with some plant protein, avocado, chia seeds, turmeric, get my body taken care of. Then I'll go back to practice at 2 p.m. And then after that 2 p.m. practice, I'll come home and have dinner. Dinner typically for me looks like I'll have a bowl of, let's say, quinoa with half an avocado with like a sweet potato, some Brussels sprouts, and then like a 6-ounce fillet of salmon. Then I'll fast for another 16 hours. And so typically I'm just doing lunch and dinner. So the 2 meals I get per day are my smoothie at noon and then my dinner at 5 p.m. And so, I am pretty strict. I typically walk around about 175 and I compete at 163. And so always trying to find that balance where I can stay within striking distance, right? Well, it'll take me a day or two to get down to weight. I can still feel good and compete. But I think it's become part of the game. One of the things that as a wrestler that you have to be dialed in on is your diet. Unlike the UFC and boxing where they weigh in the day before competition, we weigh in the same day that we compete. So
Oh,
you
okay.
cannot crash diet because you have
Right.
to be able to, rehydrate, replenish, and then go out there and wrestle that
Yeah,
same
you don't
play.
get those 24 hours to
Yeah, so but
replenish.
I like treats too, bro. Like when I'm not training or when I'm not getting down the weight, like I like donuts and crepes and I'm a treats guy. So we bought this my wife bought this really cool cookbook from one of the local bakeries in Lincoln called Goldenrod Pastries.
Okay.
And I got into baking during the quarantine. We were doing pound cake and brownies and
Respect.
brown butter cookies and all this stuff. So I like sweets too. I'm normal, bro. It's
Yeah.
funny. One day I was at Zesto in Lincoln, ice
Oh,
cream
yeah.
spot, and a guy rolls up on me. He's like, "Hey JB, like it's crazy. Even Olympic champions eat ice cream, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, it's not eating ice cream that makes you an Olympic champion. I was like, it's what you do in between those ice cream cones.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, well, I had two
yeah,
practices today and a
for sure.
conditioning session and I lifted. So yeah, I'm
We're
gonna
gonna go run
enjoy
the
this
stadium
ice cream.
after this ice cream. But no, it's all good, man. I like to be normal. I think there's the stigma attached to guys that cut weight where it's like, hey, why are you eating that? Like, are you supposed to eat that? Like, you guys
Mhm.
eat that? You actually eat these things? So it's tough sometimes, right? Because you kind of got this wrapped up hole, but you want to enjoy life too. So it's all about finding balance.
Yeah, you just tell them, yeah, make sure not to spill my ice cream on my gold medals.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, bro. It's all
right,
good.
brother. I'm gonna let you go. I got one last question real fast that I gotta know because it's just been itching at me because I am thankful for my experiences, but I could never imagine reaching the level that you have reached and that you deserve. Because I've watched you for the better half of a decade now, and to know how you work, how you approach the day is incredibly special and inspirational. But more importantly, who you are and how you treat people is really why I look up to you so much.
Thanks, bro.
So compare for me winning a college and NCAA championship versus an Olympic gold medal.
Mm. I would say the Olympic gold there's just so much more that comes with it from
Mm.
a media perspective. Like it really changes your life. Winning an NCAA title doesn't really change your life. It might change your perspective on your abilities and gives you a bit more confidence and swagger. But when the Olympics literally changes your life, you get more opportunities, more offers, the ability to make more money, more recognition. So I think that when I got to the Olympic level, it became more of a profession. And so I operated with professionalism. This is what I do for a living. This is how I earn a living. This is how I set the standard for myself and my family, and also make my name known and enter the record books. But in college, it was more so like I wasn't extremely successful as a young man. So there was half of the time I was like in disbelief that I had the ability to do these things. I went from being a one-time state champ to a two-time NCAA champ. I won more national titles than state titles. And so it was a different transition for me. But once I won that second title in 2011, I won the Olympics a year after. I was still riding high on the momentum that I built at Nebraska. So it was just such a great place, man. Nebraska will always be home for me. As I mentioned earlier, this is my last year in Lincoln, and it's been 15 years. I got there in the fall of 2006, and I've been there since, bro. So I'm going to miss the place. I'm always going to be a Husker at heart. And part of the reason that why I've stayed at Nebraska is because I don't ever want to root for another school. I don't ever want to wear another school's clothing. I don't ever want to coach at another school. Like I'm a Husker through and through. And so it's been ingrained in me, and it's a great place to be and to live, and it'll always be home.
Well, I know I appreciate that because I too am a part of that Husker brotherhood, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you. We look up to you, JB. We're pulling for. I can't tell you. I've never been so excited for Olympics in my life.
Thanks, bro.
I'll definitely be watching. The best of luck to you. Make sure you tell the missus and those three beautiful children. Spread some love for us. We appreciate your time today, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it, brother.